All right, so if you're in communication arts, you basically live and breathe one thing, understanding people. But here's a million-dollar question, right? How do you take a hunch, a gut feeling, and turn it into actual solid proof? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're opening up the researcher's toolbox to look at how to turn those big, messy questions into clean, powerful data.
So let's get right to the heart of it. Think about your work. How do you actually measure a feeling? Like, did that new ad campaign really make people feel hopeful? Or how do you find the one single pattern that connects 100 different stories? I mean, how do you even begin to do that? These aren't just, abstract questions for a term paper. This is the stuff that makes or breaks real-world communication.
The good news is, you don't have to invent the wheel. Researchers have already built some amazing tools for this. So today, we're going to grab two of the most powerful ones from the toolbox. One is all about turning feelings into numbers, and the other, it's about finding the story hidden in the words. Okay, first up, let's talk about the Likert scale. And trust me, you've seen this thing a million times, even if you didn't know its name. Think of any survey you've ever taken. Its superpower? It takes something messy and subjective, like an opinion, and turns it into something you can actually measure. So picture this. It's 1932. A psychologist named Rensis Likert comes up with this game-changing idea. He's like, what if we could scientifically measure an attitude? And the system he created is brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of a simple yes or no, you ask people to rate their agreement on a scale. And just like that, boom, you get nuance, you get real data. All right, let's make this super practical. Here's a classic customer satisfaction survey. See, we've got 3 simple questions about a store. Are the items in stock? Are the prices good? And is the quality any good? And look at the scale. People aren't just saying good or bad. They get to choose from strongly disagree all the way up to strongly agree. And behind the scenes, each one of those answers has a number, usually from 1 to 5. Okay, so this is where the magic happens. We've got all these individual answers. Now what? How do we take all those different opinions and boil them down into one single meaningful number? Well, it's actually pretty simple. We just do a little math and find the average for each question. So for question 1 about finding items on the shelves, we get a score of 4.0. On a 5-point scale, that's really solid. People are definitely leaning towards agree on that one. Then we look at affordability, and whoa, check that out, a 4.67. That's almost a perfect score. Customers are clearly thrilled with the prices. That's a huge win for the store. But then we get to question 3, quality. And yikes, a 1.67. That is way, way down in disagree territory. And just like that, a major problem area is staring us right in the face. So what happens when we average everything together? We get an overall score of 3.45. Now you might look at that and think, that's just kind of neutral. But that number is telling a really important story. It shows us that customers have super mixed feelings. They love the prices, but they hate the quality. See? The Likert scale didn't just give us a random number, it gave us a diagnosis. Okay, but numbers don't always tell the whole story, right? What if your question isn't about how much, but it's about why or how? What if you need to get deep into a complex human experience? For that, we need a totally different kind of tool, one that finds the story in the data. And that, my friends, is thematic analysis. Thematic analysis is what we call a qualitative method. So forget numbers. We're dealing with words, with stories, with experiences. The whole point is to dive headfirst into a sea of data, like a bunch of interview transcripts, and be a detective. You're looking for the patterns, the recurring ideas, the themes that tell you what's really going on underneath the surface. And to really see how this works, let's look at a really powerful example, a study about the experiences of first-generation college students. Now, the researcher couldn't just send out a survey for this. No way. They had to sit down, have real conversations, and just listen to their stories. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't just like reading some stuff and having a gut feeling. It's a super rigorous 6-step process. You start by just soaking in the data, really getting familiar with it. Then you start generating codes, which are like little labels. Then you search for themes, you review them, you define them, and finally you write it all up. It's a very deliberate journey to find the heart of the story. So this is what step 2, generating codes, actually looks like in practice. As the researcher reads through all those interviews, they start tagging interesting or important ideas. Things like lack of guidance, imposter syndrome, feeling lost. These phrases start popping up over and over. Think of these codes as the raw Lego bricks of our story. And this is where those codes come from.
A student says something like this, and a researcher doesn't just hear a sentence. They hear key ideas. They hear lack of guidance. They hear navigating the system alone. You can feel how heavy that is, right? Coding is how we start to capture and organize that feeling.
Okay, now for the really cool part. This is where we go from a messy pile of Lego bricks to something that actually looks like a castle. The researcher starts grouping the codes together. Lack of guidance and feeling lost. Those seem to belong together. Let's call that theme Navigating Uncharted Territory. Then you've got outsider feeling and imposter syndrome. Boom, that becomes the theme of identity and sense of belonging. You see? The bigger story is starting to emerge from the chaos.
And listen to this quote. It just brings that second theme to life so perfectly. When this student talks about feeling like an outsider and not knowing the unspoken rules, that is the exact definition of that identity and sense of belonging theme. This is how you know your analysis is on the right track, when the real words from real people perfectly echo the themes you've found.
So there you have it, two incredibly powerful tools. One gives you a number, so you can measure something. The other gives you a story, so you can understand something. And the real skill for any of us in communications is knowing which job requires which tool. You wouldn't use a hammer to saw a board, right? Same idea.
Let's just break it down, side by side. The Likert scale, that's your quantitative tool. It's all about numbers. It's perfect when you need to measure attitudes or get a quick snapshot of what a group thinks. Thematic analysis, that's your qualitative tool. It's all about rich, descriptive stories. It's what you use when you need to explore a complex experience and really understand the why behind it all. One gives you the what, the other gives you the why.
So as you go out and start your own projects, remember to start with the question. Are you trying to measure something, or are you trying to understand something? Because at the end of the day, your audience, your customers, every single one of them has a story to tell. So the real question is, which tool are you going to use to hear it?